I have, or had, a laundry basket full of apples. I now have 2 big bags, these are 14 pounds each, of apples that I need to deal with. Welcome back. Thank you so much for joining me today. I am working on apple preserving and I have a lot to do. If you're new here, I'm Kathryn, the Aerogarden Homesteader, and today I am going to make a batch of apple juice, and I'm going to make a batch of apple pie filling, and I'm going to actually start some apple cider vinegar. So even though I will touch on the apple cider vinegar in this one, I might actually save it for its own video because it's a bit of a long process. So right now I have 2 bags like this. I went through and sorted an entire laundry basket filled with these apples, and these ones are kind of the ones that have little blemishes on them that I didn't think would preserve very well, like sort of last in the fridge for very long, or they're really small. So I'm going to go through, and the bigger ones that are in good shape I'm going to save for cutting up for apple pie filling. The smaller ones, I'm going to wash them all, but the smaller ones are going to go in the juicer. Thank goodness my neighbor was giving away a juicer, otherwise I would probably just have to chop them up and boil them in water, or simmer them in water. So this will probably just make this slightly faster. But anyways, I'm going to get these washed up, and I don't know if you need to see the process of actually putting them in there because it's kind of noisy, but I'm going to run them through there and then I will come back and show you where I'm at. So I will show you how I'm chopping them up because I'm going to save the cores to do the apple cider vinegar. I have washed up 1 bag of apples. I set some apples aside for the apple pie filling, and I am going to get cutting these ones up so I can put them through the juicer. I have 2 half-gallon jugs here, jars, with the lids on for fermenting. I'm going to just cut around the core, and everything else is going in the juicer. The core is going to go in for the apple cider vinegar. Now, I only rinsed these with water and I scrubbed them with a brush. I didn't use any soap or anything. I'm probably going to have to peel these apples for the pie filling. I don't know if you can see. I don't know if this one shows it a little bit better. They've got a bit of a greasy coating on it. It's really waxy. Now, we got these straight from the orchard, so I don't know what they did with it. I'm pretty sure they sprayed them with something, but I will probably peel my apples just to be on the safe side because I don't know what's on them. If you are confident that your apples are good and clean, then you could probably just use them straight up and, you know, leave the skins on. But, you know, I do believe that the USDA recommends peeling your apples. So I will go with that because these ones are they're kind of wonky with that waxy coating. So this will be my first time canning juice and making apple cider vinegar. So it is my understanding that for the apple cider vinegar, I need to fill the jar up about halfway with the apple cores. Now, halfway, you have to take into account that some of that space is air, and so it might be more than halfway just to add in half the amount of water. So in the end, since that's a 2-quart vessel, I should be able to add 1 quart of water when I'm done, quote, filling the jar halfway. So we'll see how that ends up looking. I did get a little piece of, I guess it doesn't matter, it's going through the juicer. That's me being anal. So I don't know how much of this you really need to see, but I'm going to be at this for a little while because I got this full container here, and then I'll just run it through the juicer and let you know the next step. So, and I'll show you how full I ended up getting that as well. So this is the apple juice, and it is very frothy. I'm not sure how much I got. 7 quarts. So I'll probably can up 6 quarts because I'm going to use some of it for the apple pie filling. That's actually why I wanted to do these 2 together. That way I have some apple juice for the pie filling, and I can can up the apple juice that's left over for... I'm actually going to be using this apple juice to be making fruit leathers, but you could drink it. If you're gonna drink it, I would actually... So one of the suggestions was to let the apple juice rest overnight in the fridge so all the sediment can sort of fall to the bottom, and then you want to just cant off the juice. It did suggest filtering it, but you know, if you're just gonna let it sit, it'll just precipitate out. It depends on how clear you want your apple juice. Since I'm using mine for fruit leathers, it does not matter. I don't know if you can see it. I've got like skins in here, and you know, there's a lot of foam, obviously, but there's probably other things that, you know, that made it through. The juicer got really full. So because we personally didn't care for the flavor of this apple as juice, we're just going to use it for fruit leathers. This, in case I didn't mention it, and you didn't watch my other video, which I will link, but these apples are Cosmic Crisp. They are a Honeycrisp variant that are supposed to store really well, and they grow locally in the area. I think they actually were developed in the area. So there was just some orchard was giving away apples, and I think they were his culls. And I went and got a laundry basket full of apples. So I am committed to dealing with a lot of apples. So whether you clarify your juice or you just move on to this step because you don't care, you want to bring your juice up to about 180 degrees. I think that is pasteurizing temperatures. It specifically said in the instructions to not boil it. And so while I am bringing this up to temperature on a very tiny burner, I might add, so it could take a while, my jars are on the big burner and they are starting to heat up as well, because I do want everything to be at relatively the same temperature. So hopefully that will happen. Now, I might need to actually get in here with a thermometer. The side is warm-ish, so we are getting there. I did turn it up, so it will hopefully go a little bit faster, but yeah, I don't think you need to sit here and watch me stir apple juice and get it to the right temperature. It is time to get this show on the road for the juice, and I have just about everything ready. I am going to start pulling out the jars. They're sitting in the canner getting hot. So the requirement is 1/2 inch. Of course I didn't get my... Okay, if you have a measuring cup, this is probably going to be a lot easier than trying to use a ladle. I also have a lot of foam on top. I'm going to try to avoid the foam, but it is what it is. I also have a lot of... It's going to be very pulpy apple juice. Now obviously I don't need to debubble this, which with this foam is going to be a little hard. That looks good, 1/2 inch. So these will process for 10 minutes. If you are using pints, quarts, or 1/2 gallons, it's all the same processing time. And juice is one of the few things that you can actually can as a 1/2 gallon. But I think it is restricted to apple juice and grape juice, I believe. Don't quote me on that. Definitely look that up if you're interested in canning other juices. Kind of also depends on what you're going to use it for. Now, apple juice that we are doing today, you can get this from a farm already pre-pressed and skip the juicing step yourself. There are instructions on the USDA website that show you how to go from, if you don't have a press or a juicer, to go from apple to juice. If you have a steam juicer, you might be able to use that. So however you can get juice, this should work. I'm going to do a couple of the quart jars, or pint jars I mean, just so I have kind of a selection of amounts. That way if I want to run a smaller batch of fruit leathers, I have less apple juice to deal with. And since it's all the same time, kind of doesn't matter what I use. Just gotta get that headspace right. That's probably slightly more headspace than I need. So my kitchen is an absolute disaster. While doing all of this, I have also been trying to clean up some jars. I found a lady on the marketplace who was selling her jars. She was just getting rid of everything. So I scored her jars, like pretty much all of them, for a really good price. And I got her 2 All-American canners as well for a good price. But I don't have I don't have an all-American canner, so I just have the ones I bought. So they don't have the right weight for them. They don't have a weight at all. So I will have to look into getting the right weight for that to make that more user-friendly. I should probably post a picture in the community tab of what one of them looks like, because I would be curious to know what year it came from, because it didn't have the year stamped on it. The other one did, but one did, one didn't. So one was from '88. I'm assuming the other one is older because it has a different style of gauge. Plus it just looks a little older. Okay, so I need to figure out how much juice I have left and see if that might be enough for the pie filling. So I will put the lid on this and get the jars going. So, like I said, 10 minutes. Okay, I have all of my apples cut. I am going to get my sauce going, and then I'm going to blanch my apples, and I'm going to sort of dump them right into my sauce. So I need 4.5 cups of sugar. Okay, that's that. I need 1 cup of clear gel that I am going to stir into my sugar just to prevent some clumping. I need 1 tablespoon of cinnamon. I don't know why I took that off. Finally went to the store and got some ground nutmeg, so I'm going to put in 1 teaspoon of that. This is just because the recipes that I grew up with all had nutmeg in it, so probably going to make it a scant teaspoon. Stuff's kind of potent. Obviously, you can adjust the spices to whatever spice profile you are more comfortable with, you know, like the one you grew up with. Okay, and I have 5 cups of apple juice, and I need 7.5 cups total. So I'm going to get these in, and then I need to get more water. That's 5. That makes 7.5. Next, I am going to put in a teaspoon of salt. Just going to eyeball it. And a 1/4 cup of lemon juice. Oh, actually the lemon juice goes in last. So how about we don't put that in just yet. And get this on the heat. There we go. Put that on. Get out my big spoon and start stirring. Now the recipe I'm making is actually a full recipe for 7 quarts. They do have on the preservation website a breakdown of what you need to do just 1 quart. Now obviously you could do that as pints, but just so you know, there is a sort of a way to calculate it yourself if you only wanted to do, well, you know, if you only had enough apples to do a certain amount. So I actually had enough apples to do a full run, so I'm going to do a full run. And I'm going to get my water heating so I can blanch my apples. And in the meantime, this is as thick as it will get. I'm going to add the lemon juice. And then everything is in here, so all I have to do is dump the blanched apples straight in here. And then it'll be ready for the jar. I might have to heat it up just a tiny bit, but that was a 1/4 cup of lemon juice. I will make sure to link the recipes below that I'm using. I'm using the one off the canning website, and then I am using the sauce from Three Rivers Homestead, because her sauce has less sugar in it, and I feel like the one from the preservation website, it's really, really sweet. So we are going to give this one a try, because I think this one might actually be a little bit, you know, better. I might like it better. Okay, if you have a pasta pot, use it for blanching your apples, because then you can just lift the whole thing out, fill it up without splashing, put the whole thing in, and then when it's done, you can lift the whole thing out, it drains, dump it in with your apples. When it comes to a boil, I'll show you how it all works, but it's pretty self-explanatory. Okay, so I am up to a boil. I have my apple sitting in lemon water just to prevent browning, and I am going to get blanching the first batch. I'm going to lift this up so I don't splash, and blanch for 1 minute. Okay, when my minute is up, I'm going to make sure these are well drained. A little extra water won't hurt, but too much water will make the sauce a little soupy. And then this is going straight into the sauce. Okay, I'm just going to keep repeating that until all the apples are done. Okay, and this is the last set that has been blanched. And I am going to get the pot back on the heat just to warm it up a little bit before putting it in the jars. My jars are hot, so I want to make sure the apples are warmed through. There we go. I'm just going to give this about 5 minutes to warm through, and then into the jars it will go. So I will see you back in 5 minutes. Okay, it is time to get filling. Make sure I drain all the liquid out. Okay, I am going to have to double stack some jars, so I need to get out these ones laying on top. Get these ones to fit in the bottom first. Then I can put my rack on. Okay, so with pie filling. I always thought it was the apples that expand, but I read somewhere, you know how that works on the internet, that it's the clear gel that can expand. So even though it doesn't get thicker, it can expand. So it's really important to make sure you are leaving probably like 1.5 inches headspace just to prevent any oozing of pie filling. So I'm going to be doing about that much. I don't know if you can see. Look, if you look through the back, you can see it's down a little ways. So I'm going to make sure debubbling happens. Wipe the rim and get this in there. So it's pretty much normal panning. The thing is you want to make sure you are leaving extra headspace for the expansion of the clear gel. I am going to just keep filling these up, and I will show you how they turned out at the end. The processing time is 25 minutes. It does not matter what size jar you use apparently, so if you do pints or quarts, it's 25 minutes. Wish I had known that earlier, because I thought about using some 24-ounce jars, but I didn't want to mess up the processing time, and it turns out it didn't matter. So in the end, choose the size jar that works best for you. Okay, I wanted to show you what the apple pie filling looks like. This is a jar that it didn't seal. I mean, I didn't have high hopes it was going to seal, but the apples are nice and soft. This one, it didn't have a ton of filling, so I do have a jar of just apples in light syrup that I thought, well, if I needed, yeah, see, that's a little on the light side, so I might put in a few more of these apples, and just to make sure this is nice and full. This one has been sitting in the fridge for a little bit just because it wasn't a good seal. It felt like it was a light seal, and it lost a lot of its liquid, and I'm not sure why. So I had a siphoning issue. There we go. So that is that. So I do have a little bit of syrup left over, and you know, it is what it is. But I'm going to get this, pretty much I'm going to get this covered up and in the oven cooking, and I'll show you what it looks like. I mean, it's apple pie filling, it's nothing spectacular, but the syrup, as you can see, it's not like super thick and gloppy, but it does run a little bit, and it's a nice syrup, so I'm pleased with that. It's a little less sweet than the one on the canning website, so that actually makes me a little happier. The apples it is a somewhat sweet apple, so to have a slightly less sweet syrup is perfectly good in my book. Plus, you know, I don't know, you know, I used to have this terrible sweet tooth where I just wanted things that were like disgustingly sweet. The sweeter the better. Now, I find that sweet is okay, but I don't need it to be that disgustingly sweet like, you know, I used to enjoy when I was a kid. So, you know, tastes change, and I am pleased to find one that is a little bit less sweet. And I will show you what this looks like when it's done to wrap up this video, just so you have closure, but I will also show you how the apple juice turned out. And this is where we are with the apple juice. I had good seals on the jar. This one, I shook it up just so you could see what it looks like, and this is what it looks like when it hasn't been shaken. You do get the fluffy apple bits on the top. This is the juice in the middle, and then you get some of the sediment that falls to the bottom. If you leave it in the fridge overnight, you can remove the sediment from the bottom. If you run it through a strainer or a nut and milk bag, you will remove this stuff on the top, and you can be left with this lovely pink apple juice if you leave the skins on and use a red apple. And you could just do this with your jars. Perfectly fine, perfectly acceptable. Since I'm using this for fruit roll-ups, fruit peels, fruit leathers, whatever, I don't care what's in there. I will just shake it up, and it looks more like apple cider, but a thicker apple cider. You know, it's basically, you can think of this as your apple juice with pulp, and this center layer would be your apple juice without pulp. So that is how the apple juice turned out. I am pleased with it. It's Honey Crisp and Cosmic Crisp make nice juices. It just wasn't in our flavor profile. So it'll come in handy for fruit leathers. This is a lovely apple pie filling, not too sweet. I hope you give it a try. If you do, please let me know. And certainly adjust the spices to your own taste. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you found this video useful. I'll have some videos up at the end that you might enjoy, and I will see you next time on the Aerogarden Homestead.